Welcome to the Ultimate Sports Blog Podcast. Today is Monday, February 25th, 2019. I'm just going to start the NHL trade deadline. A lot of trades obviously happened over the weekend and whatnot. We'll start with the ones that happened today. The Hurricanes acquire Thomas Jerko in a trade with the Florida Panthers, and then traded Cliff Pooh to the Panthers in a separate deal. So it's pretty much a minor league deal there. The Winnipeg Jets acquire Kevin Hayes from the New York Rangers, and going back to New York is a 2019 first-round pick, Brandon Lemieux, and a conditional fourth-rounder in 2022. Career year for Kevin Hayes as Winnipeg acquires him. The Montreal Canadiens acquired Jordan Wheel from the Arizona Coyotes for another center in Michael Chaput. I think that's an interesting deal for both sides right there. The Columbus Blue Jackets acquire Keith Kincaid from the New Jersey Devils. To me, that was a surprise trade. Going back to Jersey as a fifth-round pick in 2022. Keith Kincaid's been terrible this year after having a career year last year for New Jersey. The Calgary Flames acquire Oscar Fantenberg from the Los Angeles Kings for a 2020 fourth-round pick, so a depth move right there. Another depth move by a team that's been very busy at the deadline, the Columbus Blue Jackets, who acquire Adam McQuaid of the New York Rangers for a fourth-round and seventh-round pick in this year's NHL draft. The Colorado Avalanche acquired Derek Brassard from the Florida Panthers for a 2019 third-round pick. Good deal for Colorado. Nashville acquires Mikael Granlund from Minnesota for Kevin Fiala. I think that is a grand slam for Nashville. He can play anywhere. It reminds me of the Coyle deal from Boston, except I think that Granlund's better than Coyle. And I think that's a slam dunk trade for Nashville. The Toronto Maple Leafs make a depth move acquiring Nick Paton from the Winnipeg Jets in exchange for forward Par Lindholm. So it was pretty much a depth move for each party there. The Boston Bruins acquire Marcus Johansson from the New Jersey Devils for a 2019 second-round pick and a 2020 fourth-round pick. So Boston gets a forward there. A huge one at the buzzer. The Nashville Predators acquire Wayne Simmons from the Philadelphia Flyers for Ryan Hartman, and I believe a pick is going back in that deal as well. I don't know what the pick is exactly at the top of my head. And the biggest trade of the day, the Las Vegas Golden Knights acquire Mark Stone from the Ottawa Senators for highly touted defensive prospect Eric Brandstrom, Oscar Lindbergh, and Dallas' second rounder in 2020. I think getting back Brandstrom is a huge win for Ottawa. And also on Saturday night, I believe it was, the Rangers traded Mats Zuccarello to the Dallas Stars for a second and a third, in which those two picks could be conveyed in the first. The second rounder for 2019 can be conveyed into a first if Dallas makes the conference finals. And the third rounder in 2020 can convert into a 2020 first if Mats Zuccarello re-signs with the Dallas Stars. And brutal injury news too, with Zuccarello breaking his arm after recording a goal and an assist in his Stars debut against the Blackhawks yesterday. So he's going to be out for 4 weeks. So very interesting trade deadline. And then another trade that happened last night. The San Jose Sharks acquired Gustav Nyquist from the Detroit Red Wings for a second and third round pick. And then another one that happened was the Buffalo Sabres acquired Brandon Montour from the Anaheim Ducks for St. Louis's 2019 first-round pick, in which Buffalo initially acquired in the Ryan O'Reilly trade, and prospect Brendan Gooley. So a great depth defense move by the Buffalo Sabres to strengthen their defense. They might not be a playoff team this year, but they have them under contract for next year as well. Is he a player worth giving up a first-round pick for? Maybe because there wasn't a lot of high-end defensemen on the market, so Buffalo overpaid a little bit from there, good thing they didn't use their own pick. They used a pick that's probably going to be in the late 20s, considering how well the Blues have been playing. Maybe early 20s if they disappoint late in the season. But an interesting trade deadline nevertheless. Although some of the bigger names didn't get moved until today, like Hayes and Stone. I know Columbus made a lot of other big moves with Duchesne and Ryan Zingle from Ottawa. And then Dallas acquires Zuccarello. Sharks with Nyquist. I think a lot of these moves were great, especially by the contenders from the West. Boston made their move with Johansson. Johansson's a solid player. He can be a third or second line guy for them. I like what Nashville did the best because they went out and got Simmons and they got Gramlin, who are two guys who are very good hockey players. Simmons has been a little bit of an underachiever the past year or two, but I think being on that team is going to do him wonders, and he's obviously an upgrade over Ryan Hartman, who Nashville shipped a first-round pick to Chicago for last year's trade deadline. I'm going to move on to college basketball. I'm going to go over results from Saturday and Sunday. I'm not going to do box scores or records or anything because I'm short on time today. But there's a lot of interesting results from the past 2 days and some interesting games tonight to talk about as well as pick. Number 3, Virginia defeats number 18, Louisville, 64-52. Number 5, Tennessee drops at number 13, LSU, 82-80 in overtime. Number 11, Marquette defeats Providence, 76-58. Penn State defeats Illinois, 83-76. Clemson defeats Boston College, 76-66. Oklahoma defeats Texas, 69-67. Temple defeats Tulsa, 84-73. Northeastern defeats Towson, 73-58. LU Brooklyn defeats St. Francis, Pennsylvania, 69-66. The Citadel defeats Stanford, 87-83 in overtime. Old Dominion defeats Western Kentucky, 67-63. Number 4, Kentucky defeats Auburn, 80-53. Number 15, Purdue defeats Nebraska, 75-72. TCU upsets number 19, Iowa State, 75-72. Number 24, Maryland defeats Ohio State, 72-62. Miami defeats Georgia Tech, 80-65. Baylor defeats West Virginia, 82-75. Vermont defeats Binghamton, 69-63. Akron defeats Miami of Ohio, 70-58. VCU defeats George Washington, 85-57. Richmond defeats LaSalle, 84-75. UMass defeats St. Joe's, 80-79. Central Michigan defeats Ball State, 64-57. Bradley defeats Evansville, 63-61. Missouri State defeats Indiana State, 67-61. Colorado State defeats Wyoming, 83-48. Colgate defeats Navy, 93-71. Eastern Michigan defeats Western Michigan, 77-76 in overtime. Georgia Southern defeats Appalachian State, 92-69. Coastal Carolina defeats Georgia State, 95-82. Winthrop defeats Charleston Southern, 80-78 in overtime. Creighton defeats Georgetown, 82-69. Campbell defeats Longwood, 74-72. UT Arlington defeats Yale Monroe, 91-86 in double overtime. Oakland defeats Detroit Mercy, 95-75. Wright State defeats Youngstown State, 82-54. UAB defeats Southern Miss, 76-72 in overtime. Sacred Heart defeats Central Connecticut State, 80-66. Loyola Marymount defeats Pacific, 63-56. Ole Miss defeats Georgia, 72-71. Number 8, North Carolina defeats number 16, Florida State, 77-59. Number 20, Virginia Tech defeats Notre Dame, 67-59. Number 23, Kansas State defeats Oklahoma State, 85-46. Florida defeats Missouri, 64-60. James Madison defeats Hofstra, 104-99 in overtime. Seattle defeats Chicago State, 77-57. William & Mary defeats UNC Wilmington, 71-63. Dayton defeats St. Louis, 70-62. Duquesne defeats George Mason, 79-78. Stetson defeats North Alabama, 63-60. Eastern Washington defeats North Arizona, 86-73. Southern Utah defeats Idaho, 85-76. Bryant defeats Mount St. Mary's, 81-58. Mercer defeats Chattanooga, 74-69. Wofford defeats Furman, 72-64. North Dakota defeats Denver, 81-63. FIU defeats FAU, 79-76. Maryland Eastern defeats Delaware State, 62-56. Norfolk State defeats Morgan State, 75-74. North Carolina A&T defeats South Carolina State, 63-62. NC Central defeats Savannah State, 78-69. Howard defeats Coppin State, 74-73. Air Force defeats San Jose State, 82-68. Utah State defeats Boise State, 78-71 in overtime. New Orleans defeats McNeese, 60-51. Bethune-Cookman defeats Florida A&M, 67-54. Nichols defeats Central Arkansas, 100-57. Southeast Louisiana defeats Abilene Christian, 75-66. Lamar defeats Texas A&M Corpus Christi, 63-58. Fairleigh Dickinson defeats Wagner, 74-66. Presbyterian defeats UNC Asheville, 71-55. Boston University defeats Loyola Maryland 72-65. St. Bonaventure defeats Fordham 74-53. Liberty defeats North Florida 75-70. Drexel defeats Delaware 68-60. Texas State defeats Louisiana 64-62. Robert Morris defeats St. Francis Brooklyn 67-62. Arkansas State defeats Little Rock 72-65. Hampton defeats Radford 74-71. Omaha defeats North Dakota State 58-50. Austin Peay defeats Tennessee Martin 92-78. Jacksonville State defeats Eastern Kentucky 104-101 in double overtime. South Dakota State defeats South Dakota 94-89. South Alabama defeats Troy 68-52. Stephen F. Austin defeats Incarnate Word 81-54. Harper defeats UMass Lowell 75-73. Number 1 Duke defeats Syracuse 75-65 without Zion Williamson. Number 9 Houston defeats South Florida 71-59. NJIT defeats Jacksonville 77-73. Oregon State defeats USC 67-62. Toledo defeats Northern Illinois 57-54. New Mexico State defeats Texas Rio Grande 88-79. Mississippi State defeats South Carolina 76-61. Alabama defeats Vanderbilt 68-61. Prairie View defeats Mississippi Valley State 69-63. Brown defeats Dartmouth 68-65. Middle Tennessee defeats Charlotte 86-67. SIU Edwardsville drops at Belmont 97-75. Alcorn State defeats Alabama State 74-69 in overtime. Jackson State defeats Grambling 71-60. Cleveland State defeats Northern Kentucky 83-77. Penn defeats Cornell 68-50. High Point defeats Gardner-Webb 87-79. Harvard defeats Yale 88-86. Charleston defeats Elan 84-74. Albany defeats UMBC 84-75. Stony Brook defeats Maine 81-53. Florida Gulf Coast defeats Kennesaw State 78-56. VMI defeats Western Carolina 83-78. Number 6 Nevada defeats Fresno State 74-68. Texas Tech, who's number 14, defeats number 12 Kansas 91-62. Princeton defeats Columbia 79-61. Northern Iowa defeats Valparaiso 64-53. Sam Houston State defeats Houston Baptist 119-113 in double overtime. Western Illinois defeats Oral Roberts 75-66. Louisiana Tech defeats North Texas 66-53. Murray State defeats Southeast Missouri State 103-67. Long Beach State defeats UC Riverside 71-67 in overtime. Utah defeats Washington State 92-79. Eastern Carolina defeats Tulane 85-81. Memphis defeats Wichita State 88-85. Pepperdine defeats Portland 86-80. St. John's defeats Seton Hall 78-70 from the Garden. Number 22 Wisconsin defeats Northwestern 69-64. Texas A&M defeats Arkansas 87-80. Morehead State defeats Tennessee Tech 66-63. Tennessee State defeats Eastern Illinois 75-60. Texas Southern defeats Arkansas Pine Bluff 94-74. Southern defeats Alabama A&M 59-49. Rice defeats UTEP 85-81 in double overtime. St. Mary's defeats San Diego 66-46. Utah Valley defeats UMKC 79-67. Montana defeats Montana State 89-83. Gonzaga, who's number 2, defeats BYU 102-68. Actually, now number 1 was number 2. Santa Barbara defeats Cal State Fullerton 82-67. UCLA defeats Oregon 90-83. Cal Baptist defeats CSU Bakersfield 72-58. Cal Poly defeats Hawaii 88-80. CSU Northridge defeats UC Davis 81-76 in overtime. San Diego State defeats UNLV 60-59. Portland State defeats Sacramento State 65-57. Washington defeats Colorado 64-55. And Santa Clara defeats San Francisco 68-65. Sunday's results. UCF defeats SMU 95-48. Holy Cross defeats Lehigh 73-71. American defeats Army 77-66. Iona defeats Canisius 87-80. IUPUI defeats Green Bay 79-68. Xavier upsets number 17 Villanova 66-54. Cincinnati defeats UConn 64-60. Quinnipiac defeats Monmouth 68-56. Bucknell defeats Lafayette 118-76. Illinois State defeats Drake 67-60. Siena defeats Marist 67-55. St. Peter's defeats Niagara 78-60. UNC Greensboro defeats East Tennessee State 60-59. Fairfield defeats Manhattan 72-59. Number 10 Michigan State defeats number 7 Michigan 77-70. Southern Illinois defeats Loyola Chicago 63-53. UIC defeats Milwaukee 74-59. NC State defeats Wake Forest 94-74. Arizona State defeats Cal 69-59. Rutgers defeats Minnesota 68-64. And Arizona defeats Stanford 70-54. Before I go over tonight's games, I actually want to go over the rankings. They're due. I discussed it a minute ago. Number 1, the Gonzaga Bulldogs. Number 2, the Virginia Cavaliers. 3, the Duke Blue Devils. 4, Kentucky Wildcats, well-deserved. Number 5, the North Carolina Tar Heels, good for them after the big win over Duke. 6, Michigan State Spartans, good for them after the big win over Michigan. 7, the Tennessee Volunteers, they drop after the 2 losses to Kentucky and LSU. I think that's a little harsh for them to drop that far down, but hey, it is what it is. Maybe if Michigan beats Michigan State, maybe it's a little different. And maybe if Carolina loses to Duke, maybe that's different. Number 8, the Houston Cougars. 9, the Michigan Wolverines. 10, the Marquette Golden Eagles. 11, Texas Tech Red Raiders. 12, the Nevada Wolfpack. So they dropped 6 spots after their loss to San Diego State. 13, the LSU Tigers. 14, the Purdue Boilermakers. 15, the Kansas Jayhawks after that blowout loss to Texas Tech. 16, Kansas State Wildcats. 17, the Maryland Terrapins. So 2 big risers after strong weeks. 18, the Florida State Seminoles after their loss to Carolina. 9, the Wisconsin Badgers after a strong week. 20, the Virginia Tech Hokies, who don't go anywhere. 21, the Buffalo Bulls after a good week. 22, the Iowa Hawkeyes. 23, the Cincinnati Bearcats. Welcome to the rankings. 24, wait for it, the Wofford Terrapins. Yes. Congratulations to them. That's well-deserved. And 25, the Washington Huskies, well-deserved to them, too, after what has been a very good run for them in Pac-12 play. Funny job by me saying, wait for it on the podcast. I don't think I've done that in a while, because I was not expecting to see Wofford in the rankings, but here we are, and good for them. They deserve it. And tonight's games. 7 o'clock on ESPN, Notre Dame at number 18, Florida State. Florida State's laying 12. I think they'll win and cover. ESPNU tonight, you have South Carolina State at NC Central. NC Central's laying 7. They'll win and cover. 7:30, Savannah State at NCA&T. Delaware State at Coppin State. Howard at Morgan State. NJIT at Lipscomb. 8 o'clock, ESPN2. Oklahoma at Iowa State. Iowa State's laying 8.5 points at home. I think that is a high number. I am going to take the Cyclones to win here, but Oklahoma to cover. 8:30, Mississippi Valley State at Texas Southern. Alabama at Southern. Arkansas Pine Bluff at Prairie View. Alabama A&M at Alcorn State. 9 o'clock, ESPN, number 16, Kansas State at number 15, Kansas. Kansas laying 5. That was not a good performance on Saturday. The smart person in me would typically say that Kansas will bounce back. I'm very skeptical. They're undefeated at home this year, and I really like how this Wildcats team is playing. And the other part of me says that the Jayhawks are due for a loss. Or I'm sorry, the Wildcats are due for a loss. But the Jayhawks are due to lose at home too. So guess what? I'm taking a bold call here and taking the Wildcats on the road to pull off the upset. And also at 9 o'clock, you have Northern Colorado at Montana. NBA. Some interesting results from the weekend. The Trailblazers defeat the 76ers 130-115. The Hawks defeat the Suns 120-112. By the way, the Suns have now lost 17 straight games. So let's see if that losing streak will be longer than the Knicks losing streak from earlier in the month. The Nets defeat the Hornets 117-115. The Cavs defeat the Grizzlies 112-107. The Pacers defeat the Wizards 119-112. The Pelicans defeat the Lakers 128-115. The Pistons defeat the Heat 119-96. The Bulls defeat the Celtics 126-116. The Kings defeat the Thunder 119-116. The Bucks defeat the Timberwolves 140-128. The Rockets defeat the Warriors 118-112. James Harden did not play due to the shoulder injury. And the Jazz defeat the Mavericks 125-109. By the way, with the Rockets, that was a fantastic win for them, led by Chris Paul. And yesterday, The Magic upset the Raptors 113-98. A brutal loss for Toronto. Kawhi did not play. And the Magic take advantage. The Nuggets defeat the Clippers 123-96. And the Knicks upset the Spurs 130-118 to end their 18-game home losing streak. Tonight, 7 o'clock, the Warriors at the Hornets. The Trailblazers at the Cavaliers. The Pistons host the Pacers. The Spurs are at the Nets at 7:30. The Suns at the Heat. 8 o'clock, the Bucks at the Bulls. The Hawks at the Rockets. The Lakers at the Grizzlies. The Kings at the Timberwolves. NBA TV, the 76ers at the Pelicans. And 10:30 on NBA TV, the Mavericks at the Clippers. And Luka Doncic is back for that one. NHL. I'm going to go over the results from both Saturday and Sunday, and I'm going to begin with Saturday, obviously. The Rangers defeat the Devils 5-2. The Sabres defeat the Capitals 5-2. The Blues defeat the Bruins 2-1 in the shootout. The Panthers defeat the Kings 6-1. The Blue Jackets defeat the Sharks 4-0. The Hurricanes defeat the Stars 3-0. The Avalanche defeat the Predators 5-0. The Maple Leafs defeat the Canadiens 6-3. The Flyers defeat the Penguins 4-3 in overtime at Lincoln Financial Field in the Stadium Series. The Oilers defeat the Ducks 2-1, and the Islanders defeat the Canucks 4-0. Sunday's results. The Capitals defeat the Rangers 6-5 in overtime. The Sharks defeat the Red Wings 5-3. The Stars defeat the Blackhawks 4-3. The Flames defeat the Senators 2-1. The Wild defeat the Blues 2-1 in overtime. The Coyotes defeat the Jets 4-1 in the game where they retire Shane Doan's number. Tonight's games. Sabres at the Maple Leafs at 7 o'clock, as well as Canadiens Devils. 7:30 NBCSN, the Kings at the Lightning. 8 o'clock, the Oilers at the Predators. 9 o'clock, the Panthers at the Avalanche. And at 10 o'clock, the Ducks at the Canucks. Now I'm going to talk about the spring training games from the past couple of days. There's a couple going on right now and a couple that went final today. I'll go over today's games on tomorrow's podcast. Red Sox defeat the Yankees 8-5. A lot of these were the regulars didn't play, especially that Red Sox-Yankees games. There are a few regulars in that game. Orioles defeat the Twins 7-2. The Pirates defeat the Phillies 3-2. The Cardinals defeat the Marlins 11-1. The Tigers defeat the Blue Jays 4-0. The Mets defeat the Braves 4-3. The Athletics defeat the White Sox 6-5. The Indians defeat the Reds. The Reds and Indians tied at 3. They ended it in 10. Royals defeat the Rangers 9-1. The Cubs defeat the Brewers 8-4. The Dodgers defeat the White Sox 7-6. The Rockies defeat the Diamondbacks 7-3. The Padres defeat the Mariners 6-4. The Angels defeat the Giants 10-3. The Twins defeat the Rays 10-5. The Nationals defeat the Astros 7-6. Sunday, the Yankees defeat the Rays 8-5. The Astros defeat the Braves 5-2. The Pirates defeat the Marlins 10-6. The Red Sox defeat the Twins 8-5. The Phillies defeat the Tigers 10-6. The Orioles defeat the Blue Jays 9-8. The Nationals defeat the Cardinals 12-2. The Astros defeat the Mets 10-1. Jake DeGrom started in that game, gave up a run the first inning. Diamondbacks defeat the Indians 12-3. The Cubs defeat the Giants 9-5. The Royals defeat the Athletics 14-5. The Dodgers defeat the Angels 13-9. The Padres defeat the White Sox 5-4. The Mariners defeat the Rockies 4-2. The Reds defeat the Angels 14-2, and the Brewers defeat the Rangers 10-1. And there are games that are being played today. We'll get into that tomorrow. And baseball news I want to touch on real quick. Bryce Harper, a new team, has entered the fray. They were in the fray earlier, and then they looked like they bowed out after they signed A.J. Pollock to the 5-year, $75 million contract, and that team is indeed the Los Angeles Dodgers. They've checked back in the market. I wouldn't be surprised if they signed him outright and gave him a high average annual, but on a short-term contract. I wouldn't be surprised if they signed him for like a 5-year, $200 million contract or something wacky like that. And that'd be just a tremendous blow to the Phillies, who seemed like the front runner to get him after the owners flew out to Vegas to meet with Harper. And that would be a monster win for the Los Angeles Dodgers, which would salvage what was, in my opinion, a little bit of a disappointing offseason after a lot of people thought they were going to go out and get an ace at the winter meetings or just in the offseason in general. A lot of people thought they were in on JT Realmuto. A lot of people obviously had Harper as a target for them after they made that salary dump trade. Like I said, that was an NBA type of trade that Magic Johnson's front office pulled off, where you attach a young asset or not really a young asset, but an asset in Puig to 2 owners' contracts in Alex Wood and Matt Kemp to get off of them. And you get back some maybes and what-ifs with prospects. And then the obvious landing spot for Harper in that scenario would be the Dodgers, or the Dodgers' obvious target in that scenario would be Harper and not an inferior player in A.J. Pollock. In other baseball news, the Yankees extended Aaron Hicks today, 7 years, $70 million. I think the contract in terms of average annual is a steal. But what I've been saying on this podcast numerous of times and on Twitter in general is that teams pay for future projections nowadays, not past doings. And that's just not in baseball. That's in every sport. The NBA, the NFL, the NHL is starting to do that with teams locking up their young players. And now we're seeing it in baseball as well. And I think that was a good move by the Yankees. Hicks had a career year last year. Didn't hit that great for average. He had a .248 average. But he had 27 home runs and somewhere in the 70s with RBIs. So I guess they project him to keep that pace up like he had last year. He's been injured a couple times throughout his Yankees tenure, but his numbers have improved rapidly the 3 years he's been in pinstripe. So well-deserved for Aaron Hicks. Now there's rumors that they're going to extend Dellin Betances, which wouldn't be such a bad move either. Now I'm going to do my best bet of the day, brought to you by DraftKings. It's going to be a couple-teamer, and I have a surprise for you guys in store, which I'm going to add the best bet, but just in the best bet segment. But I'll explain to you what it is in a couple of minutes. I'm just going to do a $1 money line wager with a couple big favorites here of Florida State. I'm going to go with North Carolina Central. Coppin State's going to be on here as well. Prairie View A&M, Texas Southern. In terms of college basketball, then we'll go to the NBA. We'll go with the Houston Rockets against the Atlanta Hawks as a pretty big favorite. And we're up to 6. Let's see if there's anything I like in the NHL. I like Toronto against Buffalo, but I do think Buffalo's a team that can go in there and win. Tampa Bay's a lock against the Kings. I love Nashville against Edmonton. Connor McDavid suspended, so let's go with those 8 teams. Yeah, the Warriors are a road favorite tonight, but they're only favored by 8, and I think that's a little wonky. Like again, wagering $1, the odds are plus 344 or 324. The payout of $4.24. And here's my extra surprise for you guys: money line picks. Pick a big underdog to win outright, and I wager whatever amount. And I'm gonna do 2 tonight. I'm gonna do a big underdog in the NBA and a big underdog in college basketball. I was thinking about doing the Sabres as one of them against the Maple Leafs, but the Maple Leafs are a good team. So let's start in college basketball. The big underdog I'd like to win outright tonight is, I said it earlier on the podcast, the Kansas State Jayhawks. I'm wagering $2.50 with a possible payout of $7.25. So give me the Jayhawks on the money line tonight against, the Wildcats on the money line against the Jayhawks. And then in the NBA is my money line underdog selection. There's a couple of good ones. I'm not taking the Hawks against the Rockets, obviously. I have a couple of thoughts. Charlotte's interesting against Golden State. I could see a little bit of a trap game. Same for Cleveland against Portland. But Cleveland's obviously tanking, so there's that case against them. The obvious choice would be Memphis against the Lakers. Lakers, I think, are very overvalued in the market right now, and the Lakers are just a dysfunctional mess right now. And Sacramento's a dog at Minnesota. Dallas with Luka Doncic back is a dog at the Clippers. And the pick. And obviously New Orleans is an underdog as well, but they are a minus 105 rather than a plus underdog. So the pick for the moneyline underdog play of the night in the NBA, oh, and the other intriguing one is Indiana's plus 110 at Detroit, is the Sacramento Kings at Memphis. I'm going to wager $2.50 with a payout of $5.70. I was going to take Memphis, but don't forget LeBron James is still on the Lakers, and I think they're due for a win, the Lakers are. And I like how Sacramento's playing, and Minnesota gets Karl Anthony Towns back from the concussion tonight, but I just don't think Minnesota's good, and I do think Sacramento's pretty good. So that's the choice. That's it for today. I'll be back tomorrow recapping everything from college, NBA, and NHL. Also do my best bet and my underdog pick of the day. Also talk more baseball as well. Hope you guys have a great day, everybody.